What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Clean Libertarian Podcast. And I hope that this episode finds you happy, healthy, and wealthy. Hope you guys are doing great out there. I know that everything's going real good around here. And today's episode is a really good one. I have this is my buddy Chris. He's from Twitter. And Chris's story is a little bit different from mine. He was able to find his solution through Naltrexone. And here's the thing, guys, is that there are so many different pathways to freedom. And one of the goals of this podcast is to highlight each and every one of them that I can, get on the show. And this is a new one. And I don't know, this was a really fun conversation. Not only did we talk about, his story, but we also talked about some of the harm that can be caused by, medicating kids early on with behavioral health meds, like your Ritalins and your Johnny B. Good meds is, I think, what I called him in there. But anyways, this is a fun episode. Chris is a great guy, and I know you guys are going to enjoy this. So without any further ado, here is Chris. All right. I am here with my friend, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on, buddy. How you doing this evening?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good week. We're going to be all right. They're saying we're going to get another round of snow out here in Oklahoma, but we will work on it.
Yeah, I got freezing temps this weekend. I'm not looking forward to because I planted a little early. I get
every time, man.
Excited every year, but
yeah, every time you try to get a jump on that cold snap, man, it just comes through and fucks you. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
But no, man, I wanted to bring you on because you are a fellow traveler of sorts. In terms of recovery. You've kind of had your own experiences with it. And I just kind of wanted to hear, your story a little bit, hear about, what you went through and kind of like what you're doing nowadays. And I'll just kind of throw the ball in your court and let you take it from there.
Oh, yeah. All right. I don't know. I was when I was a kid, I wasn't very social. So when I discovered alcohol, I was like, wow, I could be like a social guy and all that. And just started drinking like everybody. And I don't know, I got really bad into drugs and stuff for a little bit, but I didn't really get addicted to any particular drug. And so I joined the Coast Guard just to get away from it after my friend OD'd. So the Coast Guard is really a good place to go if you want to learn how to be an alcoholic. Because we'd be drinking till 3 in the morning. We wake up at 5 in the morning and run miles, So
right.
It's traveling around the world, drinking my way around the world. It's a lot of fun. But I for years I just blackout drunk every time. Always wake up like, who did I piss off? Like, I know this person hates me now, but I can't remember what I did. That kind of thing. So, and with my wife, it was she was really tired of it, had to stop. So I asked the VA for Naltrexone, which I had heard about, and it's basically an opioid antagonist. It blocks the endogenous, like the natural opioid in your brain. So your reward system. So whenever you do something, your brain that's good, your brain is supposed to, reward you. Like, oh, that's a good thing. You should eat food. You should exercise or whatever, But alcohol and other stuff kind of hijacks it. And I got prescribed Naltrexone. I only took 3 pills, and it pretty much eliminated my alcoholism for several years. And then I took it again only twice, and it now I don't even think about alcohol ever. So it's just kind of an amazing thing. I guess that's a really bad summary because it's 40 years of my life, but I don't know. It's just it's a way to quit drinking by. It's really a cheat code. It's if you're already sober, like there's no reason to even listen to this podcast because it's just going to tempt you into like, oh, I can still drink once in a while. Like, you definitely should. But because you have to drink in order for it to work. Like you have to take the naltrexone an hour before you drink, and it kind of makes you queasy a little bit sometimes if you don't have a big full stomach. So you want a full stomach, you take naltrexone, you wait an hour, and then you can drink. And when you drink, it's a totally different experience. Like it's not negative. It's not like that antabuse where you like start vomiting or whatever. It just, it feels more mechanical when you drink. You just, it used to be this warm glow that would just come up and just, let me know, like, oh yeah, that's what you want to be doing. But now it's just like I can feel like, oh, I just adjusted a chemical. Oh, I can feel how it makes my stomach feel. Oh, now I can feel it coursing through, and it doesn't have any of the same luster. You know what I mean? It's just it's completely evaporated. That now I barely even think about it.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
So like, how long ago was your last dose that you took?
I've taken a total of 5 doses in my life. My psychiatrist at the time with the VA told me to take it every day, which I knew was not the right way. It's actually very bad. Most doctors don't know anything about it, so they just give it to you. They tell you to take it every day. Maybe if you're an everyday alcoholic, you probably should take it every day. If you're drinking at work and stuff, I wasn't that way, but it really, you just take it an hour before drinking. I did it 3 times the first time. I The first time I took it, I took a pill, waited an hour, a little bit queasy, but not too bad. But then, and then I drank, and my wife was very skeptical, as you can imagine. If you're an alcoholic and your
Yeah.
spouse is not, then you know what that's like. She's still anxious about it, and it's been like years.
Yeah.
But so you take it an hour before, and then I think I drank like 6 beers or whatever, and I was like, wow, that's kind of a weird experience. And then the next time I did it like a week later, took it, waited an hour, I only drank a couple beers, and I was like, yeah, I'm just not really into it. And then I did it one more time. And then after that, I did not touch Naltrexone. It sat in my cupboard for 3 years, and I would go out to friends' houses or whatever, and I wouldn't feel like, oh, I can't be around alcohol or whatever. I could have a beer or two, whatever. But after 3 years, after 3 years of doing that, it did start to creep a little bit, where I was like, oh, I'm thinking about alcohol a little bit. So I did it again. And ever since then, like, I couldn't care less. Like, it just completely eliminated. I think I've had a bottle of whiskey that I had for my wife. I think I've had it 6 months now. And I think it's maybe halfway gone, because I have one glass and I'm going to finish it. I dump it out. It's just not, I'm not interested in it anymore. It doesn't make it so I feel nauseous when I have alcohol or anything. That glowing attachment that I had to it, that magical kind of draw that it had, it's just completely gone. It's unpaired alcohol from my reward system, so I don't get rewarded when I do it. I do sometimes, because I'll feel a little like, oh, really depressed, so I should have a drink, but I don't even finish the drink, or I'm really nervous about meeting these people, so I'll have a drink. But it doesn't loosen me up the same way. It doesn't make me confident the same way. It's just, the alcohol is just it's kind of like just removing this mask that we have on alcohol as an alcoholic, of this magic thing that like makes everything better, and it doesn't. It just
Right.
it removes it. So I can go out with my friends and have a drink, but I and I will. I'll have a beer or something. I've also noticed beer kills my guts now, which was my primary thing for a long time. And now I'm like, wow, that stuff. Every time I even have one beer, my guts are. So for years of me doing this, my guts are just a nightmare now. So.
Yeah. They're like, cut it out, dude. We get it.
Yeah. I have like the colon of like a 90-year-old woman. It's crazy.
So, I mean, that's phenomenal, man. I'm glad to hear that. You found something that helped you out with, the obsession. Now, were you the type to drink because you didn't have other coping skills at your disposal, like, or were you just the type of drink, it was just a social type of thing, so that's what you did?
Oh no, I would primarily drink by myself. Yeah, no, I was a pretty good drunk. It wasn't an everyday thing, but it was at least an every other day, every 3 days kind of thing, and I'd black out every time. And I just say dumb stuff when I was blacked out that had nothing to do with me as a person or my personality. So it just started really eating away at my relationship. And I wouldn't say started. It was, 20 years ago. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I just kept it
Yeah.
up for 20 years. So it was a time I was just like, you know what, I'll try this stuff, because I know that I don't have the strength to just stop drinking and just do it like that. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll try the stuff and see if it works. And it did. And it was like a cheat code. And if for those people that are still drinking, not people that are already sober, those people that are still drinking and they're like, man, I don't want to quit drinking altogether, but I want to not have this kind of problem anymore. It might be an option. It doesn't work for everyone, but it might be an option at least to get you down a little bit, you know?
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
man. What did you have any DTs or anything like that?
No, I had noticed some shakes here and there. Yeah, I did notice some shakes here and there, but and a lot of irritability with withdrawals, but I never got massive physical withdrawals.
Yeah.
I saw them a lot. I used to work in inpatient psych, so I would see a lot of withdrawals, like from all kinds of different drugs. And I, I had the psychological aspects of it. I was very irritable, and like that's all I could think about, and like I was just miserable all the time. Uh, when the day after or the day after that, and it just gets in your head like that little earworm, and you can't get rid of it. You're driving by the liquor store, and your mouth starts watering a little bit. So
Yeah.
I was definitely an addict, like no question. Like it affected my life in a major way, but I wouldn't say that I was having massive like DTs or hallucinations or anything like that, because I couldn't, my body couldn't handle doing it every day. It had to be like an every other day, every 3 days kind of thing, because when I drank, I would drink so much it would just cripple me for a day.
Right. I'm not a scientist. Let me, go ahead and throw that out there before I say this dumbass thing I'm about to say. But it does seem to me that certain people are affected more by, the physical withdrawal, not the mental. It seems like there's
Definitely.
certain body types that, and
Mhm.
I can't put a label on. I don't know. I can't look at somebody and be like, oh yeah, you'd have DTs, but it does seem like it affects some people more than others.
Definitely.
So
And I'm sure there's some variations on, like, I know some alcoholics that I know that, well, I don't know for sure, but I suspect that naltrexone wouldn't really work on, just because, well, I always thought mine was really mired in my mental, like I have pretty severe depression from, being on too many meds as a kid, and it just kind of iatrogenically caused me this difficult to get rid of depression. But I always kind of coupled it with that depression, and I thought, oh, well, the drink is just because of the depression, but it wasn't. It was just paired with my reward system, and once I impaired it, like it was a completely separate thing. Like it wasn't even a coping mechanism. It just exposed it as like this fraud, the fraud that it is.
right.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. I think that there's definitely people that I won't work for, and I definitely think that I've seen withdrawals from. I've seen people who drink less have less withdrawals than people who drink more. So I don't know. There's definitely a big variation in withdrawal symptoms for people. I've noticed that too.
Yeah, yeah. Hell, shit. I've been through 20 inpatient facilities, man. So
Wow,
I have seen my fair share of
I'm sure.
people with withdrawal. Hell, a lot of people with wet brain. People who
Hmm.
ain't never coming back.
Yep.
And but I've also seen other people who are like, yeah, I drank that much, and they were just fucking fine after a week or two. And it was like
Yep.
it never made a whole
Yeah.
lot of sense to me.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah. It was like a magic switch for me. It was just some, like it got exposed as a fraud. It was like it just hijacked my natural reward system, which is supposed to help me do things, and it never let me go. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's what it is with everybody. I think some people, I mean, if you're in so much misery that alcohol is what keeps you going, then it might not,
Right.
but it did help me a lot. And it did kind of, in conjunction with hallucinogens, things like that, like it really helped me to change my perception of it, as opposed to, yeah, it's just booze, like everybody does, and I could just see it. I could feel it go down my throat. I could feel it in my stomach and spread out, and I could feel that it was just a chemical that I was imbibing, and it wasn't. My dopamine was what was doing most of the things that I really liked about it. It wasn't the actual alcohol itself.
Right.
It's really
Right.
weird.
Yeah. That is, but I think that's kind of the nutshell for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Dude, I think it's stellar that you found this solution.
Hmm.
And I wanted to know more about it because, I mean, admittedly, alcohol was never really my thing. That was not my get down. So, uh, that
Hmm.
wasn't an option for me.
Oh,
But
what was your major thing?
meth and heroin. So
What was
I,
your major? Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I would get way too spun out on the meth, so I would have to take the heroin to calm myself down, and then I'd be too calm, so I'd have to get the
Of
meth, and
course.
it was just never ending. You know.
Yeah, I mean, no, I know. I used to be a chipper. I used to, when I lived in Boston, I used to, every once in a while, I would, for a weekend, just get a couple bundles of heroin and do it. I never really liked coke, but I think it was because or meth, because I think I was, my brain like formed under Dexedrine and Ritalin, so it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I used to take that for breakfast when I was 6. Relax. So it
Yeah.
never really impressed me that much. So I was never big into speed, but I remember I really liked heroin, but it never grabbed me like alcohol. But I think because it wasn't a social thing, I think alcohol really grabbed me at first because I was so not good at social interaction, and it really helped me with that. And then your whole teenage years and all that, it's all about social interaction. It really helped.
Man, and here's the wild thing. I identify so much with that because while I could sit here and say like drugs were the most destructive thing to ever cross my path in life, they also gave me every single bit of social skills that I have currently.
Yes, yeah,
Without
even
drugs, I never would have gotten to where
yeah.
I'm at now.
Oh, totally. Well, and yeah, there's so many skills. Like, I mean, I've done, I mean, everything. I mean, I was big into him for a long time, but just like learning how to like read people and like if they're sketchy or not sketchy, or you know what I mean. You can learn more towards working with in psychiatry just by being like a drug addict, like hanging out with drugs, buying drugs. You know what I mean? I always joke because my wife is such an innocent, like loving, like empathetic person. She could never buy drugs. I would never bring her with a drug deal because she'd just be like, "Wait a minute, are we buying drugs?" Like she just has more like sense of that, like that subtle, just little eye movements and looks and handshake. Like if that person is sketchy or not.
Right.
And oh man, it's so applicable to real life. It's crazy.
Yep, that is absolutely insane. And unless you've been there, it's hard to describe it. It's really
Mhm.
tough to describe that level.
Oh man, totally. Like getting ripped off, and like I remember getting ripped off of drugs like in the middle of like ghetto Connecticut. Like I think it was West Bridgewater, some East Bridgewater, something. It was horrible, and just like you're in the middle of nowhere, you're all alone, and you're like trying to buy drugs off like people that they're like there's 20 of them, and there's one of you, and it's just like people that climb Everest, like they don't know like the fear that is.
For real, man. What my last relapse, man, I went over to this hotel. Somebody said to meet them there, and so I met them there. They're supposed to be by themselves. And I walk in this hotel and we walk down this hallway, and then this person says, "Hey, he's here," out loud. And I'm like, "That's weird. Why would they say that?" And then while we're walking towards their room, one by one, the doors in the hallway start to open and more people join this little
Oh
hall. And I'm like, I'm getting
no.
fucking murdered today. I am going to die. And thanks to drugs, I had the ability to kind of con my way out of that one. I made it out unscathed. But
Oh yeah.
dude, I
Oh
mean,
man.
it
Well,
just,
you did meth too. Like I never really dealt much with meth people
oh
because
God.
they were just too much for me. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I was like a raver. I was like ketamine and MDMA and acid and all that. And once in a while, some heroin, a coke or something. But man, meth people, I just remember going to buy mescaline off in a meth house, and it was just like the dude's like it's all dark in there, and he's got like a shotgun, and he's like jittery, and I'm like, no, just chill, just buy hey, relax. I'm just buying hallucinogens, bro. Relax, Oh man, I just couldn't do it. I
Yeah,
couldn't.
it's too
I could never
much.
be a coke dealer either. Like 3 in the morning, like being a coke dealer. Oh my god, I couldn't handle that. I
No,
couldn't
it's too
handle it.
much. It's too much, man. I mean, we talk about high maintenance addicts. all of us,
Oh
all of
man.
us types were, man. You
Yep.
know. But so how would you say, like, after having, your life experiences and whatnot, you're a father, you got kids in your life that you're watching grow up. Like, what is your interactions with them? Like, how is your approach when talking about drugs?
I don't. I'm just pretty much honest about everything with my kids. I mean, my two younger ones are a little too young, but to really talk about it much with. But my 13-year-old knows that I smoke. I My depression is so bad that I cannot eat. I have no appetite whatsoever unless I smoke marijuana. So, and I don't smoke it all day. I just smoke it at night. So I only eat like once per day at night. And he knows that. He knows that whenever I cook a big meal for like the family for like a birthday or whatever, I'm gonna sit at the table. I'm probably not gonna eat because I don't eat till like 9 at night. Um,
Yeah.
so he's pretty well aware of it, but he kind of views that as a medicine or whatever. But I also tell him stories about you know the bad times and whatnot, and he understands. But it's also I'd rather him. A lot of it was because of the whole rebelliousness thing when you're a kid and you're on the woods drinking with your friends or smoking weed or whatever. And just the fact that you feel like a badass and all that, and I kind of took that away with my kids because I'm like, you know, hey, you're not going to be as badass as me. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to smoke weed, like I want to know about it. But a lot of our hippie friends around here, because we're homeschoolers and we're friends with a lot of hippies and stuff, and they all let their kids, and we don't. But he doesn't really fight about it. I don't know. If you raise your kids right, like they don't need it as an escape because they're already pretty much happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and it hasn't really come to that yet. But when he does, I mean, it's just I'd rather him just be open and honest with me, so I can see the trajectory of his addiction if there is one. You know what I mean? So I can kind of stop it before it starts.
Well, and they lucked out, right? Because you got your childhood fucked up the same way that I did. We got those Johnny B. Good
Yeah.
medications shoved down our throat early on,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's
Exactly.
not exactly a good ground floor foundation, for a
No.
successful
Yeah,
life.
exactly. And it's not even our parents' the fault. It's not even our parents' fault or the pharmaceutical industry's fault, although I mean there's some blame, whatever, both ways. But it's really just our parents brought us to somewhere because we had like I was the child of the divorce like everyone else our age, and I had behavior problems. So they brought me, and then they're instead of recommending more love and attention. They're like, oh, just give them drugs. And
Yep.
so then that was my solution. Like, oh, I don't need love and attention. I can just do drugs. I feel just as good. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you just learn that over time. And that's the thing with our kids. Like, we're not going to teach them that, you know, it's unconditional. Our love and affection has nothing to do with your dopamine system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at all, man. That I distinctly remember that moment when I took a pill at an early age, and I was like, oh shit, I can use an outside substance to fix an inside problem. Nice.
Yep.
Like that
I,
was
I,
a
I remember the exact I remember the exact moment sitting in the relief that I felt in the psychiatrist's office when he's like, you know what? I think maybe you're just you have bipolar disorder. And it's not your fault that you do all these things. It's just well, we just got to get you on some pills and then they'll all stop. And they didn't all stop, but at that moment, the relief that I felt, like, oh my god, I'm not a bad kid. It's just like my brain's messed up. Like, and it's the same relief that my parents felt, probably. You know what I mean? It's not our fault. It's his brain's messed up. You know what I mean? It's the simple solution with the simple answer. And you know, I don't know.
yeah. Now, how would you put, and just this is just a pure curiosity, how would you put your like attention to focus? Like, are you able to like kind of concentrate on things that you don't necessarily find interesting?
Oh God, no! I am awful with that. I've always been awful with that.
Same.
Ever. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was always awful. But it's when I'm into something, I'm into it. Like, I mean, I would start if I was into a subject when I was a kid. I lived near the library, and I used to go every day after school to avoid going home. And I would just find a section and just read the whole section, read every book, like super into it. But if it was, and then I go to school, and I never did homework ever. I don't think all the way through college. I don't think I did any, but I'm just not interested in learning something that I'm not interested in. You know what I mean? And it's always been like that.
See, I got
I
this
really
running
think
theory.
that's.
I got this running theory that
Mhm.
the uppers, the amphetamine salts of the modern day, they don't actually give somebody the ability to focus. It just coats you in such a euphoria that you start to give a shit about things you normally wouldn't, and therefore you're able to focus.
Yeah, that's not a bad theory actually. I also think that I'm trying to think. I had this whole thing before where I think there's a serial, like I don't know if you know anything about computers and things like that, but serial versus parallel processing. I've always seen like ADHD as just it's a variation, like almost a, I don't want to say evolutionary because it's a very short time span, but like a socio-evolutionary kind of thing where our brains change to, instead of I think that people with who are claimed to have ADHD have a better job at parallel processing. They're better at focusing on some things more than one thing at a time. And a lot of the studies don't really coincide with this. I don't agree with them, but I think that we it's really hard for me to describe, but our brains kind of, they're better at intaking a whole lot of information at once from a lot of different places, but we're much worse at um, trying to think of the word here. The coalescing. What's the word I'm looking for? Coalescing them in our brain. I can't really think of the right word here. Should have thought about that before, but yeah. I don't know. I think it's a serial processing thing versus a parallel processing thing. We're very good at things that we love, and this whole part right here, I'm just mumbling about nothing. You can cut all that.
No, you're good, man.
Sorry.
You're good. It tracks. I understand what you're saying. So
I
some of the
I did smoke a bunch of weed. I did smoke a bunch of weed before. So sorry.
you're
I
good,
do
man.
still smoke weed. I'm not completely sober.
You're
All
all
right.
right, bud. But I think
Yeah.
so. Like some of the problems I run into personally is like maybe it's not so much that I can't focus on the one thing. It's just that I focus on everything at once, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like paying attention to people's moving in the room. And I notice this at work, like whenever they're giving a presentation on some like new office software system that we have to start implementing or some goddamn form that we have to start filling out a certain way, like I get instantly fucking tired because it's every ounce of energy that I have to focus onto the words of the person speaking. Like I
Oh
don't give a
yes.
shit, and
Yes.
it's just like I start to get
Yes.
real
It's just
fucking
like
tired.
that old thing that yeah, exactly. It's like that old thing where I don't know if it's really true, but people used to always say that introverts, like you have like a stopwatch or whatever, and then you hang around with other people and it drains you. And it's the same thing with paying attention to shit that you don't care about. It's very difficult, and it just really drains you, and it leaves you so you can't remember anything at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, and I don't know if I was always like that because I can't remember before the pills. Like I can't really remember how I was in classroom settings prior to the medications. I distinctly remember when they happened and how that affected me at school. But like any time before that, it's just so I don't know. I don't know if that was a result of the pills or if I was always like that. Who the fuck knows? I'm sure it didn't help.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Yeah, I don't remember either. I mean, it was kind of early. I remember like my first like vomiting from lithium and stuff like that, but I don't remember a lot of my early childhood before I started taking all the meds. And I don't know if that's the reason why or synaptic pruning or what, but yeah, it was really difficult as a kid to just, I don't know. I just always didn't feel normal. But then when I was drinking and everyone else was drinking, I kind of felt normal, and it was very attractive to me.
Yeah, yeah. You fit in. You're a part of.
Hmm.
You know.
Yep. It's almost like your brain is slowed down enough so you could be normal.
Yes,
That's what it kind of felt like.
yes, without a doubt, man.
Hmm.
Now you talked about you and your wife been together for a while. She's seen you back when you were really struggling with the booze. Like, what does she think about the progress that you've made, and like the the treatment that you took?
She's still scared, even though it's been like it's been so long. But it was many years where, I mean, I got a DUI when she was pregnant with my first kid. You know what I mean? She was like 9 months pregnant. I got a DUI. And then just so many times in her lives where it's like affected her a lot. So she has kind of a PTSD kind of thing going on with drinking. So she still can't, even though, I mean, well, for the first time that I took it, I said I took it 3 times, and the first 3 times that I took it, it was in a row, like a week after another, and then I drank like a normal person for a while, and then slowly crept back, and she kept expecting it to come back quicker than it would, than it did, but and then. So every time I would drink at all, even if I just had 2 beers, she'd get very nervous that I was going to turn into my old self, and I didn't. But then after 3 years, like I started when I was out with friends, like, oh, I'm drinking a little too much, so I better do it again. And then I did it again, and now it's completely gone. But she's still, if I ordered a beer in a restaurant, I could still tell that she's getting anxious. It affects her a lot,
Yeah,
and she's primarily the reason, even more so than my kids. Although obviously I don't want my kids to see me drunk and all that, but it was a major source of anxiety for many years. So she she really didn't believe that it was working, even when it was obvious that it was for a long time. And I don't blame her. I mean, it's a lot of trauma. I mean, I would never hit her or do, but I was a dick. Whenever I was drunk and I was blacked out, like I would just say like whatever I could to like make everybody around me hate me.
yeah.
And yeah,
Turn into a community punching bag.
yep,
Yep, I get it. I fucking understand completely, man.
yep.
So yeah, and my wife, we've come a long way, but there is moments that when I behave a certain way, because I was a douchebag too. I would start a fight to get her mad, so that way I could go leave and go get loaded.
Oh
That was
yeah,
my move. That was my
oh yeah.
fucking move, man.
Oh, it was great. It's a great excuse. You're like, yeah, well, it was your fault, not mine. Yep,
Yeah, I'm gonna drink
yep,
this poison and kill you. That's what I'm gonna do.
yep,
Stupid shit like that. And
yep, yep.
I could
Hundred
tell,
percent.
like, if I'm in kind of like a cranky, shitty mood or whatever, you could tell, you could see it in her eyes. She's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so it's like, okay, I need to step back from this for a little bit, need to calm it down.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that is interesting, man. Well, Chris, brother, man, I'm so glad that you came on and talked about your what worked for you and kind of where you're at now and all of that. What, and this is something I have everybody do who comes on and
Yeah.
shares your story. What is something that you would tell that person in the audience right now who is struggling and can't fucking get out of it?
I would go on if you're a drunk and you and it's really affecting your life. Go on YouTube and look for TED Talks Naltrexone or TED Talks Sinclair Method, and it'll come up with this actress who was on Babylon 5 back in the day. I don't know if you ever watched it, but she had a real problem with alcohol, and she gives this whole TED Talk, and that one TED Talk is what it was made me seek it out from my doctor. And my doctor didn't. Most doctors, they don't believe in it. They don't know about it. They don't know how it works. They're probably going to give you a prescription to take one every morning. Do not do that. It actually makes you drink more if you take it when you're not drinking. So don't do that. But um, go look up the Sinclair Method TED Talk on there, and it's Claudia something. I forget her name, but she was on Babylon 5, and she'll explain it and her experience with it, and then really just you got to find a way again. There's a Facebook group on it too where they help with sourcing it if you don't have healthcare or anything like that. Like they're like, oh well, this place you can go and you just do a online thing like they do with Viagra or whatever. You know what I mean? So definitely try it because you can still drink, but you won't want to. You don't have to anymore. You know what I mean? You have to drink for it to work like a couple times. And then you can still drink, just take it a half hour before, an hour before, and it will block it, and it will really, I guarantee it will help most people.
Right on, man. Well, I will I'll look up that TED Talk and I'll make sure to include that in the show notes. And yeah, man, just like I said, thanks a lot for coming on, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Anytime. All right. I want to thank Chris again for coming on and sharing his story and spending some time with us. Man, I tell you, I have had such a blast getting to hear all these different stories from people and learning all the different ways that people find freedom. And this was a new one for me, and I really thoroughly appreciated it. And so in the show notes, like I said, I would do on the podcast, I have included the YouTube link to that video Chris was mentioning. Check it out. You know, if you are a problem drinker and you have tried every other avenue, maybe you haven't tried rehab or you haven't tried the 12 steps, it's just not something that appeals to you. Hell, go talk to your doctor about Naltrexone. You know, maybe it'll work for you. I don't care what avenue any of you use to find freedom. I just care that you find freedom, you know, and I hope that you're able to join us on this path to a better life, you know. So anyways, that's about it. That'll do us. And I have a song for this week was mentioned by my good friend Greg. You guys remember him from way back when. He was on to share his story. But this is The Devil Makes Three, and the song is called Chase the Feeling. So here you go. Y'all have a good one. See you next week.
Takes one to know one. I know how you feel. You've got your hunger and some problems that are real, and you're dealing with some demons who are driving you insane. And I seen them drag you screaming down the hallways of your brain. You got loaded again. Ain't you handsome when you're high? Nothing matters. Chase that feeling till you die. Let it ride in there. Let it run your life. Let it run your children off. Let it run your wife. Let it take the joy you love, turn it to despair. You know better. You just don't care, 'cause you got loaded again. Ain't you handsome when you're high? Nothing matters. Chase that feeling till you die. Blame it on the midnight, thinking number one, tangled up in two while you were shining like the sun, with a pretty piece of hunger who was younger than her eyes. I begin to wonder how it is you're still alive, 'cause you got loaded again. Ain't you handsome when you're high? Nothing matters. Chase that feeling till you die. Nothing matters. Chase that feeling till you die.